those teacher conferences, you have to plan them a year in advance. So every school sends one person to go and help organize and plan it. And then you take all the information back to your schools to let everybody at your school know. So that year, the planning conference happened to be in India, which is where the conference itself was going to be. And I just finished with the meetings and all that. I was going back to my hotel, on my way up, and all of a sudden, glass starts flying everywhere. You know, it's big sound. You see people start running around screaming. You see people with blood on them and everything. Yeah, exactly. It was a car bomb. It was a car bomb right outside the hotel. And so what was strange to me was, okay, this had just happened, and your heart kind of starts to race, and you're a little disoriented, and then you kind of start to realize once the dust and everything starts to clear, and everybody figures out that it was a car bomb, and then they all just went about their business. It was like it was no big deal, because it was happening so frequently there. And one of the reasons it was happening, because way back when, and let's see, this would have been, had to be at least probably, no, it had to be at least 12 years ago, something like that. But India and Pakistan, if you ever look on a map, in between the two, there's a little piece of land there called Kashmir. And the Indians and the Pakistanis have been fighting over Kashmir for years, since like the mid-1940s. When the British still controlled India, and after they were going to give India back to India, and let them, you know, be their own ruling sovereign country, it was the Brits, however, who drew the boundary lines of the countries. And at that time, it was still very tribal. You know, there were the Hindus, the Christians, the Muslims were all there. The Brits drew the boundary lines from a very Western point of view. They didn't really think about the local culture and what would be the best way to draw those lines for the local culture. You know, they didn't think about, okay, well, maybe we should draw the line like this, because then, you know, all the Muslims can be together and all the Hindus can be together. They didn't do it like that. They did a lot of splitting up of the different religions, which is why sometimes you still hear of conflict between India and Pakistan today. That's where it comes from. So at that time, car bombings and that were a part of the armed conflict and fighting over this piece of land, which it's not like there's gold or anything there. It's just a symbolic, somebody needs to be in charge of that, and so they keep fighting over it. But again, it's another one of those examples of when you hear armed conflict, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's cool. But it's not just soldiers anymore. It's people that, again, I didn't even live there, and just by chance, I ended up in the middle of this armed conflict that at the time I knew nothing about. I had no idea why somebody was trying to blow me up, you know. And of course, did Mr. Isley call and check on me? No. What was that about? Yeah, well, it's his job to know. Yeah.